Top story this week, the upshots of the top story from last week. When we recorded last week, Donald Trump, the President of America, had just launched his tariffs. I don't even know if that word is correct. As a result of which, I mean, as they say, night inevitably follows day, and day inevitably follows night. Mayhem inevitably follows Trumpic policy announcement. After days of market mayhem, Trump then paused his tariffs. Essentially, the chicken blinked, the cock cocked up, the turkey turned, and the goose shat itself. And now we're in a slightly bizarre situation where the tariffs are still going to happen, but not for about 3 months after Trump acknowledged something that he described as transition difficulty, which is not something that he has always shown the most sympathy for an intuitive understanding of. I think it's fair to say. Nato, you are our American decline into a vortex of inescapable disaster correspondent. It's been a busy week for you.
Oh dear. So the stock market crashed. The Trump announced the tariffs. The stock market crashed, and just to give you a sense of what that means for me, at this point, my pension plan is the Bugle. So that's where we are. And it raised prices even further, and so I found myself saying things like, well, I guess my family doesn't eat eggs anymore. The eggs are now luxury goods only available to the super rich, as if the only eggs were ostrich eggs served to hedge fund managers on a velvet platter during a ritual on a full moon. Working class families are singing mournful boleros to say farewell to the last egg they're going to enjoy. It reminds me of when I was in Cuba and there was like a black market of like egg dealers, like drug dealers, where like a man would pass you on the street and whisper huevo, 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 and then you would say yes, huevo, and then you would hand him some money and he would whistle and a car would pull up and someone would hand you a carton of eggs out the window and then the car would drive away. So that's how America is. There's been a big debate about how to understand the tariff policy. Like, how do you make sense of what Trump is doing? So here's a quick multiple choice. Is it A, a brilliant calculated master plan by the author of The Art of the Deal to simultaneously wreck the American economy in order to justify privatizing everything and replace all social functions with AI and crypto, while returning America to a 19th century framework of funding government via tariffs and abolish the income tax? Or B, the actions of a coterie of impulsive, grievance-obsessed imbeciles who lurch from one bad idea to another in a futile sense for anything to fill the bottomless hole of insecurity they all obviously have? Or is it C, the predictable result of giving ChatGPT too much ketamine?
Could it not be all three of those things?
Hard to say. They're calling them reciprocal tariffs, which they are not. Reciprocal tariffs are when both countries have a tariff on each other's imports to that country. But the formula for these tariffs is based on a percentage of the deficit, the trade deficit divided by the imports to that country, which is not an economic standard that has ever been used. And so the solution for the other countries is that if they want to lower the tariffs, they need to buy more American shit, which raises the question, what do we have that they want? We can offer to Vietnam or Madagascar or France guns, basketball, all-you-can-eat breakfast buffet, non-fat mocha with whip, the freedom not to put a U in color. We have a lot to offer the world as America.
Josie, I know you've long been a fan of isolationist global economic strategies. What's your take on this?
Well, yeah, absolutely a big fan. It's the biggest thing for me has been really having to accept that the word tariff has a single R in the middle and a double F at the end, when barrel has a double R in the middle and a single L in the end. Both of these seem to me crimes against any kind of reason, just as a basic thing, and it's something that I can't get beyond as I try to examine and understand this story.
Right.
In fact, every time I try to write the word tariff, I put two R's in it.
I think you've probably still gone a little deeper into how international economics works than Trump himself, though. With that.
It's true, and it's less silly. I mean, it is genuinely less silly. You were talking about what the US has to offer, and I've actually gone into this because obviously there's been a lot of grandstanding between the US and China, and I always love it when China kind of cattily snaps back against the West, because I feel like they have so much power and they're doing things so successfully within their country that every time they do, I'm just like, drag us so fucking hard. Like, I remember when the UK...
You're such a sub, Josie.
I'm a bratty sub. What can I say? I really remember there was a time in the UK where we were really put down by, I think it was the Chinese ambassador, who was just like, China is not in competition with the United Kingdom, okay? You are not a competitor to us. We are a fact to you. Sit back and shut up. I looked at what the US's main export to China is, and it's soybeans for pigs. Not even for humans, soybeans to feed their pigs. Isn't that a subservient export? It's pathetic. Like, and also I was thinking, good for soybeans for pigs, you know? Soybeans for pigs are having their day in the sun. I would never, and they would never, to be fair to them, have put themselves as the main character in any news story. Then they're looking at the league table, they're higher than petroleum, you know? They are top of the league at 9% of US exports to China. They can't believe it. I can't believe it. It's a wonderful day for soybeans for pigs.
Well, Josie, just on the soybean for pigs issue.
Yeah, continuing on the soybean for pigs issue, yeah.
Yeah, it could be crippling for China to cut off their supply of American soybean for pigs, because obviously we all know that China doesn't have land on which they could grow crops, or people who could tend those crops, or any familiarity with soy as a agricultural staple, despite the fact that they've been eating tofu since, I looked it up, the Han Dynasty in the 2nd century BC. So it raises an important question, which is, why is China's biggest import from the U.S. something that they are famous for? And there is an obvious answer, which is that Chinese pigs are snobs and prefer the superior mouthfeel and hints of sandalwood and blackcurrant finish of American soybeans.
Chinese pigs live better than the American proletariat.
Also, I mean, just thinking back to a story from a while ago, I remember when David Cameron was Prime Minister, he made a big thing about a deal that he struck to export British pig semen to China. So it does. When that does back up, you know, that they only want the absolute best. The British pig splaff is all that Chinese lady pigs will accept.
This is barely on topic, Andy, but I must share this with the world. The other day, I was on a bus, and the woman next to me was Googling, how much does it cost to send semen abroad? So even in this age of tariffs, there are still entrepreneurs willing to take on very important jobs.
Yeah. It's interesting you describe it as silly, because those are the words used by a Harvard economist quoted in the New York Times, described it as totally silly. There's no other way to say it. It makes no sense.
But Andy, Elon Musk clapped back at that and said a PhD in economics from Harvard is actually bad, not good. So,
well, okay, fair enough. And who are we to disillusion the lad? But I mean, that is perhaps the highest praise that Trump's actions have received from the non-Trumpic community. Totally silly is a rather more positive angle than many have gone with. Bunsley Horridge of the international multi-trillion-dollar sludge fund Capito-Gasmic Capital described Trump's tariff program as like feeding 10 cocaine-addled porcupines to a hippo. It's not going to end well for either party. Julia Streve of the Organization of Strategic Hegemonic International Transactional Ethics, or OSHITE, described it as like plonking your willy on a barbecue and claiming it's a sausage. People will take a long while to trust you as a chef again. Whilst GK3000XQX, one of the leading AI bots, said, "Do you still think you can't trust us, you bunch of fleshy losers?" So it's, I mean, really has shaken up the economic world.